Welcome back to a quick look, where we feature one of the automobiles in the collection of the Savoy Automobile Museum in Cartersville, Georgia. I'm Steve Starling. I'm a volunteer docent here at the museum, and today, if you're into Studebakers or just like seeing restored rare vehicles, we've got a real treat for you. It's this 1956 Studebaker President Classic. So let's get started. So the Studebaker Company was started by the Studebaker Brothers in 1852. They made wagons and carriages. By the 1870s, they were one of the largest wagon builders in the world. So it's only natural that they would start building automobiles when automobiles came into being around the turn of the 20th century. They built automobiles alongside the wagons that they kept building. Back in the early part of the 20th century, there were essentially three lines of Studebaker cars. The top-end line was the President, the mid-range was the Commander, and the entry level was the Dictator. Don't ask me why. In the late 1930s, when Hitler was in power, Mussolini was in power, they changed that, and the entry-level Studebaker became the Champion. I like that a lot better. The President Classic was the flagship top of the line for Studebaker in 1956. It's a beautiful car. It's been restored to showroom perfection. And it's 1950s in style, but in a kind of a refined, subtle sort of way in my mind. You got a lot of chrome up front here. You got these beautiful eyebrows over the headlamps. And then as you go back, I'll mention while we're here, that it has a sweepstakes, they called it, engine, a 289 engine that was new for 1956, and it generated 210 horsepower, which might not sound like a lot to us today, but it's only a 3,300 pound car. It would go well over 100 miles an hour. Now looking at the sides here, it's a two-tone car, obviously. There were like 28 different color combinations that you could choose from. This is midnight black, and the lightning strike stripe down the side is snowcap white. Just gorgeous, very dignified. Window accents in snowcap white around the windows, and with these white wall tires, it just brings everything together and gives it a very dignified look to me. If you drove this car to church, drove this car to the post office or to the market, you're gonna get lots of gawking and lots of attention. Looking back here, like any 1950s car, fins were a thing, right? Except the fins here are subtle and again, very refined. I love this car. So you gotta love the interior of this car. It's got these beautiful cloth and vinyl seats. The advertising says that you could wash these, but I wouldn't put too much water on the cloth if it were me. You've got a clean, well-arranged dashboard. Most interesting thing on the dashboard is this Cyclops eye speedometer. It has this dial that rotates as your speed changes, and it's got a glass bubble on top of it that serves as a magnifying glass. And as the advertising slogan back then said, you could know your exact speed at a glance. So we're at the tail end of the President Classic. And as you can see, there's lots of chrome there. There's a very interesting badge here on the side and one in the center of the trunk. Let's talk a little about the tail end of Studebaker as a car manufacturer. Studebaker faced the same challenges that all other relatively small automobile manufacturers faced during the 20th century. They just couldn't achieve economies of scale. In 1956, Studebaker made about 85,000 automobiles, only 8,500 of this model. That same year, General Motors built almost 4 million. Ford built almost 2 million Ford products. And faced with that, their costs were higher, their prices had to be higher. For various complicated reasons, Studebaker always had labor costs which were higher than some other manufacturers. And so as a result of all that, Studebaker and Packard merged in 1954. Packard stopped building Packards a few years later, and Studebaker production in the U.S. ended in 1963. They built cars in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada until 1966, and then stopped production completely. Don't feel too sorry for those guys though, because they continued to make automotive accessories and automotive products. They made Paxton superchargers, and they had this oil additive called scientifically treated petroleum, STP. That worked out for them pretty well. So it's always great to see a beautifully restored car. It's particularly great to see a beautifully restored rare car like this beautiful 1956 Studebaker President Classic. This car has won all kinds of awards at shows and concours events. And here's some breaking news for you. This car is going to be a part, along with 11 other Studebakers, of a display at the Savoy called Stunning Studebakers that opens on April the 1st and continues through August the 3rd of 2025. Come out, see the car at the museum and the other beautiful Studebakers. They range from 1927 all the way up to 1963. You'll enjoy it. Thank you for joining us for a quick look, and we'll see you next time. Maybe we'll do a Mustang next time.